today I will be reading to you a short biography that I wrote about a famous woman in history. Who is the Iron Lady? Margaret Thatcher was given the title of the Iron Lady by the Soviet paper Red Star for her unbending politics and style of leadership. She was England's first female prime minister and headed the United Kingdom from 1979 to 1990. She was also the first prime minister to serve 3 terms since 1879. But Margaret Thatcher was not always the epitome of power in politics that earned her the title of Iron Lady. Margaret Hilda Roberts was born on October 13, 1925, and was the daughter of a grocer. But power and politics were always her passion. At an early age, she developed a keen interest in politics that was said to stem from inspiration from her father, who was very active in local politics. Margaret Roberts attended Huntingtower School and won a scholarship to Kesteven and Grantham Girls' School. From there, she applied for a scholarship to study chemistry at Somerville College, Oxford, but was initially turned down and only received the scholarship when another student dropped out. She began at Oxford in 1943. During her time at Oxford, Margaret was influenced by political works and became president of the Oxford University Conservative Association. She graduated in 1947 with a bachelor's degree in chemistry. After graduating, Margaret moved to Colchester in Essex to work as a research chemist for BX Plastics. In 1948, she applied for a job at Imperial Chemical Industries, but was denied the position after the personnel department proclaimed her headstrong, obstinate, and dangerously self-opinionated. Margaret became more active in politics and joined the local Conservative Association, and through connections joined the official Conservative Party and met Dennis Thatcher, a wealthy and successful divorced businessman. They married in December of 1951. In 1953, her twins Mark and Carol were born. In 1959, Margaret was elected as a member of Parliament after a difficult campaign. She was a member of Parliament from 1959 to 1970. In 1970, the Conservative Party under Edward Heath won the 1970 general election, and Margaret was appointed to the position of Secretary of State for Education and Sciences, or Education Secretary. During her first months in office, she attracted much public attention for the administration's endeavors to cut spending in schools. Margaret's first priority was the quality of the education. Instead of cutting the school's programs, she eliminated the free milk given to children aged 7 to 11 at schools. It was an unpopular decision, which earned her the name Margaret Thatcher Milk Snatcher. During her time as the Education Secretary, Margaret turned down only 326 of 3,612 proposals from schools that wanted to become comprehensive schools. And comprehensive schools are secondary schools or high schools that specialize in the arts or that have extracurricular activities such as humanities or politics. The attendance rate for these comprehensive schools rose from 36% to 62%. She was the Education Secretary from 1970 to 1974. In 1975, the current Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party, Edward Heath, began to encounter problems due to the 1973 oil crisis. He resigned and was succeeded as leader of the Conservative Party by Margaret Thatcher. In the winter of 1978 and 1979, the Liberal Party took a hard hit and lost the general election. The Conservatives won a 44-seat majority in the House of Commons, and Margaret Thatcher became the first female Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. Margaret Thatcher was sworn in as Prime Minister on May 4th, 1979, and moved into number 10 Downing Street. There were many important changes that Margaret Thatcher made while in office as the Prime Minister, but I'm going to highlight just a few of the most significant ones. The first was her anti-union attitude. Margaret felt that while the unions had been instrumental in exposing the poor conditions of factories and in ending child labor during the Industrial Revolution, they had outlived their usefulness and were now taking advantage of their power. The largest opposition she encountered was with the coal miners' union. 2/3 of the country's miners went on strike in protest to her legislation to reduce their power. By the time her war with the unions was over, more than 27 million working days were lost, but in the end, Margaret was victorious. Trade union membership fell from 13.5 million to less than 10 million by the time that Margaret left office in 1990. Margaret's next big endeavor was to privatize the country's utilities. Margaret believed that if there were multiple utility companies, the competition would create a better product. She privatized the gas, water, and electricity companies, and her efforts were associated with notable increases in performance. The last of Margaret's legacies that I'm going to address was her alliance with Ronald Reagan. Together, the two leaders were credited with bringing about the fall of the Iron Curtain. The Iron Curtain was a phrase coined by Winston Churchill to describe the expansion of the Soviet Union across Eastern Europe. The two Cold Warriors accomplished much together and are a wonderful example of teamwork and friendship between the United States and the United Kingdom. The fall of Margaret Thatcher began with her introduction of the poll tax. The poll tax is a form of taxation that charges a flat rate for every person instead of a percentage based on income. There have been cases of the poll tax in the United States with the intention of excluding a class of people, such as the African Americans, the Native Americans, or white immigrants. The poll tax was an unpopular idea in the UK, with ballots showing only 12% of the population favoring the tax. The implementation of the poll tax led to riots and eventually to the Thatcher resignation. It was proof of how out of touch with the views of the people Margaret Thatcher was at the end of her time in office. She resigned on the 28th of November, 1990. It was said that Margaret Thatcher was never again happy after her resignation. Her husband passed away on the 26th of June in 2003. She succeeded him by 10 years and died of a stroke on April 8, 2013. She left behind a legacy of alliance with the U.S. and an important lesson as well. Never get so proud of where you are that you forget why you were there in the first place. I leave you with a quote from Margaret Thatcher, paraphrased from the prayer of St. Francis. Where there is discord, let us bring harmony. Where there is error, let us bring truth. Where there is doubt, let us bring faith. And where there is despair, let us bring hope. Thank you.